Thank you for waiting. It's taken a little while because I tried to convey to Mumbai some of the issues that you raised. And I do have a new offer from them. They were at $975. They've come down to $875. Well,
It's nowhere near realistic. I mean, just that's not a significant move.
well, it is $100,000. I understand that they're not yet in the range in which you could seriously consider a settlement, but my experience is this is the process. We're a good deal away from the 1.6 million that they were before, and I think they understand that this isn't going to solve the problem. And yet, it's part of a process, so I do need another number from you, I think, to respond to them, so that then I can go back to them and suggest that some more movement is needed.
I think we could go to 140. That's where we're comfortable, given the circumstances.
Okay, so it sounds like you're thinking that the most likely exposure, if there were any, would be for the 90-day termination, which would be on the order, and as you computed, of more like 60 to 75,000. Some concern about maybe a 14-month exposure, and as you average it, that's how I would explain it to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's our reading of the contract. That's about where we're exposed.
The mediator suggested that MedPro make its next offer $160,000 rather than $140,000. He stressed that a move to $140,000 would represent only a $20,000 increase from MedPro's last offer and might discourage Mumbai from compromising further. MedPro resisted the suggestion, and the mediator took a different approach.
Where would they have to go for you to be comfortable going to 160? I know it's not 875, but the question is, where would they have to be? What kind of signal would they have to give you for you to say, okay, we can go there now? It's not, doesn't mean we're going to where you are, but at least we're in the right range.
Not 875. Let me just.
Yeah, it's okay.
I would say if they came in at 250,
Okay.
somewhere in that range, we could reframe this.
This would give you a place from which the further compromises could come that might get this to something that you could realistically, essentially explain to the company.
Yeah, that could get us to be able to counter with 160, but not 2. We're not going to 2. I mean,
Okay.
just
No, I understand.
don't want to.
So, I'm not sure whether I would want to explain this to them or not. I don't know if they're ready to hear a number like that, but if and when they are, would it be okay for me to explain that that's the range in which you think the future bargaining has to happen, as opposed to where we are now?
Yeah, I think we're
Okay.
comfortable sharing that.
Okay. So, I've talked to them. They see, I think what's happening is they're seeing their primary exposure under the contract as being the 90-day termination. It could be, they say, 14 months, but they think more likely about 90 days. And they've got the lower profit figure per month than you compute. So they've gone to 140 from where they were before as their next move.
140.
Well, that's where they are now.
Do they understand this is a good faith process, Dwight?
Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. We moved down $100,000 and they've moved up $20,000. It's completely insane.
I think the problem is that they're seeing your 875 as being considerably higher than you could recover under the contract, even under a 14-month termination.
In our view, there's a much more realistic number where they should be at this point.
Where do you think they should be?
I would say at least 400,000.
If they were at 400 with a non-exclusive arrangement, continuing in the future with appropriate guarantees, where would you be? If I could get them to 400, just for my private information, this isn't, just for me to know.
Give me 1 second, please.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah. I think we would be at about 650.
Okay. All right, well, that gives me a sense of what the range needs to be from Mumbai's perspective.
Which, by the way, is a number that is a huge concession from where we started and a huge concession from where we started this conversation with.
If I think it's the right moment, would it be permissible for me to indicate that, from your perspective, that's the range in which this bargaining should be happening?
If
Well,
you're going to
this would-
throw those numbers out, it has to be with the understanding that the 400 is, we're talking about bottom end of a range, and where we're really realistically at is close to the 650.
Sure, I guess what I would say to them is that you've sent the message that in order to get you to 650, they'd have to be at 400. And you haven't seen it, and therefore you're not anywhere near there.
That's a much better way of conveying the message.
Okay. Well, I'll try to be very clear about it.